art nerds. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about acrylic markers. Arrtx reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in trying their 48-piece set of bullet-nibbed acrylic markers. And, you know, I've been looking to try out some different things. We've been talking about watercolor a lot here on the channel, so I said yes because I thought it'd be a wonderful opportunity to try out a few new techniques with you guys, to share some new projects with you guys, and to just do something a little bit differently. So thank you to Arrtx for sending me this set. While I would not call this a review, since this was sent to me and I do feel like sometimes it does bias my opinion, I am going to try to share my findings with you guys as honestly as I possibly can. And I've also created several projects using these acrylic markers to hopefully inspire you guys and help you, if you have purchased some acrylic markers or just happen to have some acrylic markers, to come up with some fun projects that might inspire you to make something of your own. So I cannot wait to dive into this box so we can swatch these markers and make some art. Hey guys, so it's like 95 outside and I decided that recording outside where you could see my face would be the best idea, and we will see how long I can actually do that. And the reason I wanted you guys to see my face is because I have received a package from Arrtx. We're going to talk about that a little bit more depth a little bit later on. I do want to go ahead and open it. It arrived a couple days ago, wrapped like this, all taped up as well. Alright, so with some struggling, inside our bag, we have this. It makes a shaky noise. It is all wrapped up in protective foam and taped. So it will take a little bit of effort to get into. And then inside of this, we have a set of 48 Arrtx acrylic markers. Now, Arrtx had contacted me and asked if I would be interested in taking a look at these in return for one regular full-length video as well as one short-form video for like TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Reels. I said, sure, why not? Because some of you guys have been asking me about acrylic markers. And while I've used acrylic markers in the past, like Liquitex acrylic markers or Montana or Molotow or even Posca, which is not quite acrylic, but it's an indelible marker, I haven't tried out Arrtx's marker. And since a lot of people are moving from alcohol markers to acrylic markers, I thought it would be fun to check them out and share my thoughts with you guys. Now, since they sent these to me care of, I did not ask them to pay me. They did not offer to pay me. This is not exactly a review. I don't feel good about giving a full review on something that got sent to me, at least at this point in time. However, I will try to be as fair as I can. I'm going to put them through the paces, test them out on several different materials to see how well they work. And hopefully this will be helpful in you guys deciding if these are a good fit for you or not. Now, the back has some shinies on the sticker. We also have the color numbers, but not necessarily color names. These are acrylic markers with a 3mm tip. They offer strong coverage and are waterproof. They are water-based and bright, and they supposedly will paint on anything. These are, their UK representation is KOVA Associates Limited, and their EC representation is CNE Connection. And I think we can take these inside to the desktop to get a better look at these. Welcome back to the desktop, art nerds. So you can see Arrtx acrylic markers, 3mm strong coverage. This is the 48 color set that they sent to me. Nothing over here on the side. Arrtx on the top. Nothing here on the side again. And then here is the back with the sticker and then with the colors listed. Now, even though this got sent to me, I promise I'm not going to tell you you absolutely need to have these things. You will die if you don't have them or anything like that. I really do not believe in doing that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to give you guys a good overview, because if you're in the market for something like this, or maybe looking to shake up your art routine to bring something new to the table, this could be a good option for you. This is shrink wrapped. So I'm going to grab an X-Acto blade and very carefully try to slice it and not slice myself. Now, if you were ordering this off of Amazon or another site, it might arrive packaged a little bit differently than how it came to me. I guess they shipped it directly themselves rather than shipping it through Amazon. Sometimes when I work with companies and do care of things like this, they'll send it through Amazon. All right. Now, here is the back. These are representative swatches. And what that means is these are just a color approximation. This is not actually what the colors are going to 100% look like. And I would highly recommend you go ahead and you swatch all of the colors and you have that as a reference and you work from those real swatches so you know what these actually look like. It is a cardboard box. I guess it is reusable. It's fairly sturdy. Inside, we have some replacement nibs, so that's helpful. And then I'm just going to grab one. We have our acrylic markers. Strong coverage, recap after use. The color number is at the top. Shake the marker to mix the ink. Press the tip several times. Start using the marker once the tip is inked. Now, like I said earlier, I want to try these. Oh, there is actually a holder. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to regret this. So there is a couple of plastic holders down here in the bottom. So you could use them in the box. You could also take them out of the box. You could maybe even find a clear plastic container like at Dollar Tree in order to... Do I want to sort these into some semblance of an order? Maybe I will do that. Oh, there's something so aesthetic about looking at your colors in rainbow order. So of course, I'm going to have to do that. I believe they also contacted me about taking a look at the... Do I have two of the same color? No, they're just very similar. Taking a look at their anime color set, and I was also interested in that because I figured that would be more like skin tones. But honestly, if you're not going for like 100% skin tone accuracy, they do have several colors that, looking at them right now, seem like they would be good skin tones. There was no additional information in the packaging to explain how these are like sorted out. Here is a gold, here is a white, here is a black. How these are sorted out into like a color order or color family. So I am just going to kind of approximate it, give it my best. There is a gray and there's a silver. So I think I mentioned earlier, I want to try these out on a few different things. I want to try these out on paper. I want to try these out on plastic. I want to try these out maybe on terracotta. Sorry, sometimes it's hard for me to talk and do. ADHD. So I'm going to do my best. I think I'm going to put the colors that I feel like look like skin tones. Also, there's some like neons in here and maybe some neons. It's hard to tell from these. Are definitely look like neons. Some cute colors though. So I think I'm going to do what looks like to me skin tones, and I may reorder these. I think certain colors and certain families end in certain numbers. It's hard. Sorry, there was no information about this. And they do have some talking points that they want me to cover, and I will get to those in a second. But just keep in mind, those are what they want me to talk about. So I am going to also insert my own opinions, my own viewpoints, my own experiences into these. Now, those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Becca Hilburn. I am primarily a watercolor comic artist at this time, but if you are old YouTube or you used to read blogs, you might know me from the Nata Soup Studio blog where I reviewed a lot of alcohol markers. I do like acrylic markers. I do use them from time to time. I think I'm going to do pink next. But it's been a while, and this could be a wonderful opportunity to just kind of play around with a different media, get the inspiration flowing, get the juices flowing. So while I do have some ideas for what I want to do with these, I do want to keep things kind of loose so that as inspiration strikes, I have the freedom, hopefully, to pursue it. I'm also going to try, obviously this is a more chatty one, right? But I am going to try to keep the field test portions fairly succinct, time-lapsed, quick moving so that we can talk about a lot of different things. There may or may not be a follow-up video. If I really like these, I will probably do additional videos with these. So if I have fun with these and I think these are a great product, keep an eye out because there will probably be more videos where I talk about these. Now, generally, I don't get contacted by companies to review stuff and to do care of videos. So this is kind of a nice little change of pace, but I don't intend for like the majority of what I do. Look at this rainbow. Is that not so aesthetic? Just had to appreciate that for a minute. I don't intend for the majority of what I do to be care of videos. In general, I like to talk about things that strike my interest. So this is something that struck my interest. I thought you guys might enjoy it, so that's why I said yes. But honestly, care of videos are the minority of what I do here on the channel. Ugh, there's something just so satisfying about sorting colors. It's just really relaxing and I don't know, kind of fun. And I'm trying to keep them like grouped by family. Now you guys can see better. That thrill of new art supplies. Now I am going to have to get these all started. So me ordering them and like organizing them like this, it might have been a little bit of a waste of time. We will see. I will try to keep them in order. I'll try to keep it making that dopamine go. So anyway, I have plans for these. I have some really cute ideas for these. I hope they work out really well. In the past, I have enjoyed, acrylic markers, acrylic style markers. I think they're really fun and I think they're versatile. So I'm excited about this. So before we dive into me actually exploring these markers, I want to make sure that I cover the points that they asked me to talk about. These are what they consider to be their main selling points. So these have strong coverage. They contain 50% more ink than other brands on the market. They work well on multi-surfaces. They are suitable for various materials. Bright colors with a durable hard round tip. And they would like me to try drawing on various surfaces, including wood, rocks, glass, iPhone, clothing, DIY crafts, etc. I have a Samsung. I'm not going to draw on my Samsung. If I could find another case for my phone, though, I would. Well, that'd be so cute. I would love to try that. We will see.
Editing Becca here. This is a little insert that I recorded to demonstrate the paint flow. This is 2 layers of paint and you guys saw me pump before applying the paint. You didn't see me shake it. I did that off camera, but I did shake and then pump the paint. This is important to note because that's how you're going to get better paint flow and better paint coverage with these, and you have to do it basically every time. This is on a cotton rag watercolor paper. I would actually not recommend a cotton rag watercolor paper, but I was trying a whole bunch of different things, so this is just one more thing that I wanted to try. And since this already had a black wash on it, I thought it'd be great for showing how opaque these can get. After each layer dried, I went ahead and added another layer, so you guys see me doing kind of a little like swatch test to show you guys how opaque the colors are on top of other colors. This is also just kind of fun to do and can make for some really neat, like almost neon-esque effects. I think it's really important to reiterate the shake, the pump, and the draw every time you use these markers. Otherwise, you're not going to get as good of an effect. So I'm demonstrating them on an unprimed little metal watercolor case. So this surface is actually not particularly receptive at this point. If you wanted to prime it, you could lightly sand it. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I wanted to kind of show you guys that even on unprimed surfaces, you can use these to label things. One of the points they wanted me to really talk about was back to school, which is just not really my jam in this regard. So you may need to do a couple of layers to get that opacity, and also allowing it to dry. It's going to become a little more opaque as it dries. I also wanted to demonstrate how easy it is to clean these off. So this is some rubbing alcohol. You just spritz it on your non-porous surface. This is only going to work on non-porous surfaces, and then you can wipe it off. What I can dig up. So that's what they asked me to talk about. So we have covered that. Now we can take a look at these ourselves. So these are pretty standard size for an acrylic marker. You can actually see if you look very, very closely. It's hard to see because it's yellow on yellow. Actually, I thought this was white, but this is looking yellow. Let me see if I can find a good example. Yellow on yellow is hard. Blue is green. Green is good. Wow, it's hard to tell what color these are. You can see little gradation marks though on the side. That'll tell you how full these are. In the course of this review, I am going to see if these are refillable. A lot of acrylic markers like Liquitex are refillable. Not all acrylic markers are refillable. And I believe Posca markers are not refillable. So it has strong coverage, recap after use, 3 millimeter. It has our instructions, it has our barcode, and it has our color number at the top. Inside, we have our nib, which you can pull out. If you've already activated, I would really recommend using tweezers for this. The cap does post. There's no clip on the cap, and it is a round body, so it is going to be prone to rolling. So the cap does snap on securely. This is the 48 color set. It comes with a white, a black, a silver, a gold, and what looks like a warm gray and a cool gray, as well as several really bright, fun colors. Now, I have talked about Arrtx's alcohol markers in the past. I like their alcohol markers, so I have high hopes for these today. And if I am feeling particularly inspired, I might do something mixed media with the two of them. I think that could be really cute. So the next thing I want to do with you guys is I want to get one of these started in regular time, and then I'll start the rest of these in time lapse. So here's our marker. Generally with these things, you pump to get the ink going, and then I find that it is helpful to store it this way for a little while at least, so that the ink flows to the tip. And you guys can see this is what it looks like when the ink has flowed to the tip. Now this does not seem to unscrew, so unless you refill it through the nib, which some markers you can do that, I do not believe that these are refillable. I'm going to put this back in here, and we're going to go over to the computer desktop really quick to check out Arrtx as well as their Amazon presence. So this is what comes up when I search for Arrtx on Amazon. Now, my experience with Arrtx is typically with their alcohol markers. They do have some brush tip acrylic markers that I would love to check out. You know, I'm a brush tip kind of gal, so I'm going to open those in another tab, and I might investigate those a little bit later on. It would be interesting to see how the two tips differ. I am familiar with their alcohol markers, not this set in particular,
but another set that they have, I think they're really fun. I like using them when I teach classes. I think they're a good option for people who are interested in getting started with alcohol marker art. They do white label a variety of products from China, so they may be carrying different brands or different manufacturers' brands, so you may see different names on the products. I don't believe Arrtx themselves manufacture things. I think this is like their US facing marketing for like Amazon, for example. So this could be a good way to get some less expensive but pretty decent art supplies. I am seeing a lot of like really interesting acrylic stuff as I'm looking at these, so I'm opening them to check them out later. They also have some really cool jumbo acrylic markers. These could be fun for muralists as well as, say, oil pastels and white gel pens. I am kind of looking for the markers that I have, and I'm not necessarily seeing them. So I know they wanted to launch this product. That's part of the reason that they contacted me, was they are launching a new product and they wanted to drive some interest for this product. So I may have something that is not yet available on the market, but this hopefully gives you guys kind of an idea of what sort of stuff Arrtx has. They have gouache. They have a lot of the gouache. Well, that's Hemi, but if we scroll up, if my computer will let me, you can see they do have their own jelly gouache as well. If you are familiar with using some of these other Arrtx products, please let me know about your experiences down in the comments, because I've only tried out their alcohol markers. I haven't actually tried out their acrylic or their acrylic brush markers or their oil pastels or their color pencils. So for a set, this is 60, 60, 36. It can run between $50 and $30, which seems pretty, okay, to be fair, I am used to like Liquitex, so those tend to be a little bit more expensive, but they are refillable. I'm not really seeing anything here that gives me the indication that they're refillable. I'm gonna go ahead and click on some of the acrylic brush pen markers. These are so cute. They promise high adhesion. I know this is not what we're looking at today, but what I'm looking to see is if they mention anything about them being refillable. These are closer to what I'm looking at today, but not quite. Ugh, this is really making me want to try them out. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about these being refillable. Here is the Arrtx store on Amazon. These also look closer to what I'm taking a look at today, but those also have the brush tip rather than the bullet tip. I really like their online presence. I like how it's very art forward. There's a lot of art kind of being used to sell the products and get you excited about that. Now, as an artist, I'll always say I want to see them credit their artists because, you know, this is how artists find work. Oh, these are neat. These are kind of like those Posca brush tips. It looks like you pump the back. Top valve action. That's neat. It's another one I don't know if I opened it or not, but it's another one that I would be interested in trying at some point. Can't try everything, I know, but mostly it seems like it is markers, gouache, a lot of the acrylic markers, some pastels. These soft pastels look really nice, actually. Too bad I'm not super into pastels, so I can't really talk to that. Some fine liners and brush pens, and look how cute that packaging is. So cute. Now, that is something I would like to see brought into the acrylic marker line, is this really nice heavy-duty reusable cardboard packaging. I still have my Arrtx markers in the box that they came in, so when you make really nice packaging like this, people do tend to keep it and reuse it, whereas the cardboard box that I got the acrylic markers in is a little bit flimsy. I probably will keep it and use it, but it's not as sturdy as some of their marker packaging. This does look pretty sturdy though. This is not the same as what I have, but like you can look at the box down here and it does look pretty sturdy. So I'm just looking to see if maybe under their new arrivals, because these have a cap similar to what we're taking a look at today, but they have that pump action in the back. So they're not quite the same. And then here are the nice chunky boys. Those are very, very cute, very satisfying to look at, even though I don't do that kind of art. And then they have gel pens. But I am not seeing the bullet tip markers that we're taking a look at today. They do also have like a whole section on acrylic markers. And I'm just doing this because I'm nosy. I like to see what products companies offer, what they're bringing to the table, what they're bringing over into the US. It also helps me plan what I might be reviewing in the future. When I see stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks really, like these look kind of neat. And I do actually have some wood cookies, so maybe I'll do some art on some wood cookies. I would just be afraid of the wood eating up the fiber brush tips on these acrylic markers. Also, I don't know with these, the brush tip ones, how you would pump them to get more. Oh, you pump the back. Duh, Becca. So I'm not seeing the bullet tips here, mostly just the brush tips and stuff. And then under art markers, they have their Alp series and their Oros series. I think I've taken a look at what became the Alp series later on. So this is the Oros. Man, that's giving Copic vibes at this point. Let me take a look at the Alps ones real quick, just to see how they differ. Ah, okay, so the Alp series is actually the bullet tip. I took a look at what became the Oros series later. So it does seem like they like to offer brush as well as bullet. So it looks like today I'm taking a look at the bullet. And here is their website. So I'm just gonna go through it kind of briefly, especially because Bowie is in the background demanding to be fed. It is not yet time for him to be fed, but he thinks he needs to be fed at all times. This is actually what we're looking at today. So you guys can see coming soon, Arrtx 48 colors, acrylic paint markers, 48 bright colors and hard round tip, shake well and press tip to use, quick dry with high coverage, works well on multi-surfaces, visual window and valve design. I guess the valve would be at the front of the marker. Waterproof, non-toxic and never fade. And I'm just checking this out in case there is any additional information that, you know, wasn't provided to me or wasn't on the Amazon site. Now, one thing I have noticed, they say to use these for drawing. One of the things I have noticed in my own experiences with both Posca and acrylic markers is that if you work too quick into it while it's still wet, it can tear up the paper, which means sometimes it's better suited for a smooth coated paper or for something like Yupa, which is like a plastic paper, or for acrylic, glass, ceramic tiles, wood, something that is a little bit sturdier. And literally they list some of these. So I'm running some errands tomorrow. I'm gonna hit up a Dollar Tree. I may pick up some ceramic, some glass, some acrylic stuff to try this out on. It kind of depends on what I see while I'm out. So we have the 48, we have the 36, and then they have the brush markers individually. So the 48 would be around $39.99, so less than $1 a marker. And that might change on Amazon, you know, sometimes they're a little cheaper. And I know they have an anime set coming out because somebody contacted me about that, but I haven't heard back from them. I'd love to try them for you guys, but you know, don't know about that just yet. So it is nice that theoretically you can buy individual colors if you run out, especially because it doesn't really seem like they have refills for these. So here are the dual ended, here are the 36, the 48, here's the 60 anime colors. These are different actually than what I have. So I really do hope they'll send me one of them to check out for you guys. And then they have the alcohol markers, which we took a look at. You can buy by color. In terms of art supplies, color pencils, sketching pencils, drawing paper, gel pens, oil pastels, and soft pastels. And then some of their things are on sale.
Unfortunately, it does not seem like it is as deep a discount as one might want. So, you know. And then let's quickly just check out about Arrtx. So, according to their brand story, they were founded in 2015. They insist on creating new products with original designs, starting from paint pens, markers, color pencils, pastel, and gouache art accessories. They have rich experience in art products with high quality Arrtx paint pens that are popular among many artists, art students, and comic painters. Now Arrtx products have been sold to many countries around the world and have been well received by customers. We are willing to connect with you to add more colors to the world and become a world-class art supply company. Their products include acrylic markers, alcohol markers, drawing pencils, soft pastel, oil pastel, gouache, and drawing accessories. They work great for smooth, clean coloring on multiple surfaces. And they're professional color pencils for beginners and artists. Wow. Oh, I was like, I am getting deja vu so bad right now. That is because I read this when I was doing the alcohol marker review. Because here they talk about collaborating with artists. Here they show some of their other products. I think some of these were shown and weren't available when I did the alcohol markers, and now they are. So let us head back to the desktop and get these acrylic markers going. I have 3 left to do, but I wanted to comment that these colors are just so cute. They are so inspiring. I haven't had a chance yet to swatch them, but like just seeing them in action like this, I've gotten so many ideas for things I want to do with them. And I mean, sometimes when I do marker sets, the sets don't like gel for me. The colors don't make sense. I can't really like envision what I want to do. With this set, I am getting so many ideas. I really hope these markers are good because this is such a fun selection of color. You've got stuff that'll work as skin tones. You've got a lot of like tropical, summery kind of colors. So I do think like a summer release with these colors is a good idea because like my brain is already thinking about like beach and fruit and clouds and sunset and that kind of stuff. And I think that really lends itself well for this. One thing I'm going to point out now, though, is these, if you want to cover like a large area, like you want to cover a rock, you want to cover a pot, you want to cover something, these are going to take forever if you want to do a base coat. So you may want to introduce like a matte acrylic, and it'll also be interesting to see if these dry as a matte acrylic or a shiny acrylic or like an eggshell or a gloss acrylic, something in between. But you're going to want to do a base coat of something else because it will just take forever to cover it with this, and it might be hard to do even coverage. Now, we saw that they are coming out with larger markers, so, you know, that might be a good in-between, but, you know, say if you're doing these in a sketchbook, right, and you want to do it like on top of a field of color, and these are opaque, so they should be able to do that, or at least they're supposed to be opaque. We will find out. Then you definitely want something as that base layer. want to do some swatching so we can get an idea of how these colors actually look. I am going to try them out on a cellulose-based watercolor paper. And my thought process behind this is a heavier paper, about 140 pounds. It does have some tooth to it, but not a whole lot of tooth to it. I do have some hot presses that I could and may try out. And this is going to be pretty similar to a mixed media paper with maybe a little bit more structure. I am using Canson's XL watercolor paper. This is actually something I use pretty frequently for watercolor illustrations. So it'll be kind of fun to test it out with our acrylic markers. Also, it is a 9x12, so I might be able to get all 48 colors onto this piece of paper. These markers really need to be swatched because the cap color and the acrylic ink are not one-to-one, and it's not a close enough match that I'd like to rely on just the cap. For the most part, I like the color selection, but I do feel more difference is needed among the purplish pinks, the violets, the blues, and the yellows. The color selection is more muted. There aren't a lot of strong or true colors or primaries in this set. You need to shake these markers constantly because color separation happens quickly. I also find the bullet nib to be fairly scratchy for a bullet nib, so you may want to be choosy about what surfaces you use these on. Something that is super porous and rough like concrete is very likely to tear these up quickly, but fortunately we do have replacement nibs. Start off by doodling a pansy. These are fun to use on a sturdy paper like an inexpensive heavyweight cellulose watercolor paper. If you want to use these in a sketchbook, this is the paper that I would personally recommend. I would also recommend a paper that can take some water like the watercolor paper, so not necessarily a paper that has a strong coating on it. And I would also recommend that it has a little bit of tooth or surface to it, but not too much. A regular uncoated paper like this, you do want to give the layers a chance to dry before you apply more paint. Not only will that prevent it from picking up prior layers, but it'll also help prevent you scratching and tearing up the paper. Organized my markers a little bit in a way that made a little bit more sense to me, and I'm going to swatch on the top of the container so that I have an easy color map of what colors are where, and I can rely on this color map because this is the actual color inside rather than relying on the caps. I should have written down the numbers of the pins as well, but I'd already started obscuring them because when I was priming the pins, I used the cap as my priming surface. I found some inspiration for those acrylic markers. I think I found some things that it might be fun to try them out on, to decorate, to personalize. The world's biggest big gulp, and I am aware this is not the real thing. I would be a little afraid to trust myself on a $50 water bottle, so we've got a $5 water bottle instead, as well as some interesting surfaces that I thought might be perfect inspiration. So some metal, some canvases, some plastic, and some glass. Now, the one thing I didn't find were any tote bags. The Arrtx rep who I was chatting with was really excited for me to try it out on some canvas tote bags, but I did find some canvas. So I think we can make some cool things with these acrylic markers. These are really inexpensive little canvas boards from Dollar Tree. So basically they're a canvas attached to probably cardboard with a plastic coating on top. For larger area coverage, I would recommend either using a larger acrylic marker like the chisel tip that we're going to see when we go to the site, or just painting the background using acrylic paint. These are not as opaque as I would hope, because you need a couple of layers. This is normal, but they did boast about how opaque they are. If the color beneath isn't fully dry, the scratchy bullet nibs will scrape prior layers, so you need to be careful on non-absorbent surfaces like this. Personally, with bullet nibs like these, I find color mixing to be challenging, so I opted not to do that. You guys can see the green in the background. The color, there's a bit of a color shift. That is color separation from the markers. You do need to shake these constantly and prime constantly to ensure that you're going to get the most accurate color and to make sure that the ink flow can keep up with what you're trying to do. I also spent 3 days kind of noodling on these pansies, doing a couple of them, coming back to them later after they've dried, that sort of thing. So this was just kind of something that I noodled around on for a while. In a lot of the advertising that I've seen on TikTok for acrylic markers similar to these but with the brush tips, often they're doing anime style and anime inspired art in a sketchbook. So I wanted to give it a try myself. Why not? So the color gamut in this set isn't my favorite for drawing people and faces, so I opted to keep it really simple. I also did a little under sketching as kind of a guide because frankly, I don't really freehand with markers well enough. I do feel that in this set, there aren't enough light skin tones, and the difference between the two lightest is rather harsh, with the darker peach almost appearing neon. I do like the selection of neutral colors and possible darker skin tones in this set. I wonder if Arrtx will consider doing a portrait set the way Posca
is now offering a set of portrait colors. The brush markers they offer are available in a set A and a set B with a focus on anime colors. And for this sort of sketchbook art, that might be a better choice. I also, you guys can see how she's got zombie skin kind of towards the bottom of her jaw. That was me picking up a lot of the green when I was doing the pansy illustration. So I went ahead and I switched out the nib, because once you pollute a light color like this with a darker color, it can be really hard to remove the darker color and to be able to get fresh coverage. And it took a few layers to really cover up that mistake. I'm glad they included additional nibs though. Couple of orders from my shop while I was reviewing these markers, so I thought it would be fun to test out the markers on mailers to see if I can make them more fun, more decorative, and a little bit more special. It's always my goal when people buy things from my shop to make it as fun and as special an experience as possible, and I thought decorating the mailer would be a great way to do that for this. These are so much fun on the bright blue paper mailer. I had no issues with the bullet nibs tearing up the paper, which is common when using acrylic markers on regular paper, and I love how the colors pop. I really enjoyed using these on the mailer. I know that sounds a little ridiculous. It might have been one of my favorite surfaces to work on. The way the colors kind of stand out on the teal blue mailer is just really fun and really satisfying. And I think I had kind of the fewest problems working on this mailer and working in my watercolor sketchbook with these markers. So I picked up one of these knockoff Stanley mugs at Five Below because I wanted to try painting it with the acrylic markers. It is, you can tell, I really love this olive green kind of color. And I was thinking about doing Louisiana irises on this. So before I can do that, I need to remove the Hydra Quench stainless steel insulated tumbler logo, sand it down, and then wash it. Now, if you're interested in watching me paint with acrylic on things that probably shouldn't be painted on with acrylic, I have a video where I painted on some white rubber boots for the White Boot Gala, and I painted Louisiana irises on those too because I have a favorite flower. So this has been all scuffed up. Hopefully that will be less apparent after I wash it, less apparent after we paint on it. So I'm going to take it inside, wash it, dry it off, and we can start making some irises.
So before committing to the surface of the mug, I decided to do an iris study in my sketchbook to kind of figure out how I wanted to go about drawing it and what colors I would use and kind of what order I would do things in. I found that after doing the pansy, that just made a lot more sense and it really streamlined the process so I wasn't constantly trying to correct mistakes. Now, I had big dreams for this mug. I really thought this was going to turn out so cute. But I found the surface was kind of a pain in the butt. And a lot of that doesn't have to do with the markers, but it has to do with just handling a round object while trying to record. This was just really challenging on my arthritis to complete. And I did find that I needed more layers than I really wanted to have to do, to be honest. I jump cut the process so that I could pull the mug into my lap and work that way. So you're going to miss a lot of the layering and a lot of the process. I had to do it to save my own hands because it was getting kind of dicey trying to keep it steady on the desk. It was a fun project, but I probably can't drink out of this because I am not really sure how food safe these markers are. And I feel like washing it is kind of a toss up. It may degrade the paints. It may make the paints flake off or scrape off. I'd love to seal it, but I have had bad experiences with aerosol sealants reactivating acrylics in the past. So while I enjoy doing this project, I'm not sure what to do with it from this point on. If you guys know of any good food safe sealants that I can use to seal it and actually be able to use this mug, let me know down in the comments. So given that I enjoyed doing the paper mailer, I thought it'd be really fun to do a cardboard mailer because I got a couple of book orders and I thought it'd be really fun to decorate the book fold that they come in. Now, unfortunately, the cardboard mailer just isn't as fun as the paper mailer. I think some of it has to do with the type of paper that they use on it. These markers really catch on the corrugation of the cardboard and they start to tear up the paper surface on the cardboard. So you do start to get some like degradation and you do have to wait longer in between layers. It was still kind of fun to doodle on the mailer, but these markers aren't necessarily the best tool to use on corrugated cardboard like this. That said, I don't think my color selection really helped. Some of these greens appear one way and then they kind of handle differently on the paper, and some of the colors just didn't look as nice and as fun and as poppy on this mailer in particular. I still really enjoyed being able to make a fun custom mailer to send out. I'm sure that if I received a mailer that somebody had drawn all over, I would think it was really fun and charming. So I'm still glad I did it, and I still enjoy drawing all these cute little mushrooms. I just don't necessarily feel like this particular surface is the best fit with these acrylic markers, and it's not necessarily a surface I would recommend you use if you have these markers. So I have this little plastic photo frame and I want to do like a rim design on it using the acrylic markers. And I think this will be just perfect because I have a lot of round art and not really a great way to display it. So I think this might be just perfect for what I'm hoping to display. So one of the projects that I really enjoyed doing was this acrylic photo frame from Dollar Tree. So I used the insert to kind of plan out the design that I wanted to draw. I wasn't sure how challenging it would be to actually get started on this unprimed acrylic. I didn't want to sand it down to give it more tooth because I didn't want it to lose its transparency, right? If we sanded it, it would give it a frosted appearance. This was really fun to do, and I have another idea for a larger frame that I kind of want to turn into a diorama. This is a fun, cheap craft that you can do with younger artists or do for yourself. I do wish the bullet tips had more nuance because everything I ended up making in this review, in this in this unreview, ended up being kind of blocky, and that's kind of a necessity of the size of the 3mm tip. I don't work super big. I work at kind of like a 9x12-ish sort of size, and these were a little large for that, but it can be fun for really cute cartoony art, blocking things in, stuff like that. I think the brush pins would be really fun to try, especially if you're looking to bring a little bit more nuance into your art. Now, I know I did a lot of projects that kind of echo each other. I like certain themes. What can I say? But I did try to do stuff that would use as many of the markers as possible, including some of the colors that might not, like this color here, right? This kind of mushroomy brown might not see a lot of use otherwise. So that was one of the reasons I ended up drawing a lot of mushrooms, was so that I would have a chance to use more of the browns. I also tried to work my way through the greens. I think the neons were really the only colors that I didn't get a whole lot of use out of. All in all though, I had a lot of fun playing around with these markers. I really enjoyed the color selection for the most part. While there are some, hiccups here and there, I don't think any all-in-one color set is ever going to be perfect. And often there's a lot to be learned from learning how to use the colors that you have and learning how to make art with the colors that you have. And I think sets can be a great way to get started on a new art form in a hurry. markers aren't really a new thing. They've been around for a while, and there are several other brands that are offering acrylic markers, including Sharpie. These are their new, I'm not sure yet if they're actually acrylic. It does say acrylic, but I haven't had a chance to play around with them yet. But there are a lot of companies that have started offering acrylic markers, and even Arrtx has been offering acrylic markers for a while now. You guys probably have seen these brush-tipped Arrtx markers before, and the prices can be kind of all over the place. They tend to go on sale pretty significantly. One of the things you're going to want to look for, though, with acrylic markers or any acrylic powered, you're looking for a pump action. So that's going to force acrylic paint into the brush or into the nib, and that's going to be really important with keeping up with paint flow when you're covering a large surface. And the markers that we talked about today do have a pump action, but not all acrylic markers seem to. And again, until I get my hands on them and I can kind of play around with them and see for myself, I can't tell you one way or the other whether these brush markers have a pump action or not. It would be interesting to find out. I would love to try it. I've seen these on TikTok. They look like a lot of fun. We've talked about Posca markers quite a bit here in the channel, and in general, I really like them, but I struggle to find uses for them because they do tend to have, I have found, significant problems with over leakage or drying out very quickly. But these have been, you know, kind of the gold standard. The Poscas have been kind of the gold standards of, I know they're not technically acrylic. Posca's actually not very forthcoming with what they are. I've been referring to them as a tempera, but they're probably not a true tempera. But you guys can see acrylic markers, very available, a lot of different price points, a lot of different companies are offering them. I've actually been contacted by several different companies asking if I'd like to talk about their acrylic markers on the channel. And I chose to say yes to Arrtx because I've bought their things before. I've talked about their alcohol markers here on the channel before. Now, even though Arrtx sent me these markers to talk about with you guys, I did feel like it would be disingenuous to pretend like they were the only people offering acrylic markers. I mean, you guys have probably seen all of these other brands. And one of the other brands that I see a lot in regards to acrylic markers are Arrtx acrylic markers. I've played around with these a little bit in the advent calendar box that I purchased for a couple of years. I find Arrtx to be kind of expensive for what it is, so I am not necessarily recommending them, although I do have friends on the Discord server who have used the Arrtx acrylic markers and they are satisfied and like the Arrtx acrylic markers. But I did think it was important to mention this because, like I said, you guys have probably seen a dozen acrylic marker brands, and I want you guys to be able to make as informed a choice as possible. Historically, one of the brands that I am the most familiar with regarding acrylic markers would be Liquitex. I hate accepting the cookies, but you know, for time's sake. Liquitex offers acrylic paints. They offer liquid acrylic paints, and they also offer acrylic markers. They have done so for a while. They offer them in different body types. I believe they are refillable, and they do come in like kind of your traditional acrylic, traditional artist colors, so it can be easy to color match between brands. So that might be a reason why you would choose to go with Liquitex's acrylic markers. Now, I wish they would actually show. Oh, they do. Okay. I just have to click one of the colors because they offer a variety of markers. And like I said, I'm talking about what other brands are doing a little bit just so that you guys can make informed decisions. You don't feel like I was trying to push any one product, because that's actually not my intention. So these come in 3 different sizes. It does not look like I can click them, which is a little bit annoying, but it doesn't really matter. It's just to kind of give you guys an idea that, you know, these are on the market. These are another option. Another brand that offers acrylic markers is Molotov, and they've got kind of like an acrylic system. So they have several different markers as well as like liquid acrylics. So you guys can see these here, pretty similar to, well, I just dashed away. Pretty similar though in terms of what like Liquitex is offering, also designed to be refillable, and they also sell empties. Now these I have some trouble finding out in the wild. So like if we're talking about easy to find acrylic markers, neither the Liquitex or the Molotow are super. I mean, you can go to like a Blick and find some of these things. Sometimes your local art supply store might have some of these acrylic markers, but they're not like as ubiquitous as like alcohol markers were for years, even though Poscas and acrylics are really growing in popularity. One more that I kind of forgot is Caran pigment markers. I believe these are actually acrylic markers rather than being like a watercolor pigment. I'm gonna just quickly head on over to there. We've talked about Caran here on the channel, and part of the reason I want to talk about so many different options is just so you guys are aware, just so you guys know these things are out there. I have not tried the pigment ones yet, so I'm not gonna like, you know, put down my foot and be like, this is absolutely what it is. And as you guys can see, it's not really explaining. It just says water-based pigmented paints. That definitely can also be acrylic, especially if these are designed to be more opaque. While I did like Caran's water-based brushes, they were nice. They're very expensive for what they are, and I didn't really think they were like a replacement for the dye-based watercolor markers that are already on the market. They weren't like that much better. So that's also kind of the reason I'm bringing up the Caran brushes. And I'll try to do a little bit more digging just so that you, man, they offer like so many new things now since the last time I've been to the Caran site. I'm going to do a little bit more digging just to see if I can find out if these are actually acrylic or not. Non-toxic organic pigment-based paint. I mean, opaque acrylic paint. So yes, these are also an acrylic paint. I would be interested in trying them, but like I said, they're kind of expensive, and I don't use acrylic markers all the time. So while I'm considering buying Arrtx's brush acrylics, because I think I would use those, just given how much more expensive these are, without getting to try them out myself, I really could not say that these are worth the money. Right? Like, I do understand why a lot of people go with the less expensive option, because it does serve their needs at the time. And I just can't even tell you if these are refillable. I'm pretty sure the other ones, the regular Caran dye-based watercolor-esque markers, are not refillable. So if these are not refillable, I think that's kind of a high price to pay for these markers. So we have tested the heck out of these Arrtx acrylic markers. Let's talk about the pros and cons. And we're going to start on a positive note. So the pros. Acrylic is a very different medium than my usual watercolor. And while I don't always love traditional acrylic on canvas, I do enjoy using acrylics to decorate things like boots. These acrylic markers make it easy to just doodle on surfaces like rocks, mugs, and mailers, and can be a fun way to bring more functional art into your life. These particular markers are also fairly inexpensive, which makes them fairly accessible. They are available through Amazon and Walmart.com. I've not actually seen them at like my local brick and mortar or my local Michael's or my local Walmart, but that doesn't mean that they aren't going to start carrying them, or it doesn't mean that they don't already have something very similar to these if you want to give them a try. These are a good art supply for younger artists with supervision. Very low mess, low cleanup, low risk of spills. I mean, yes, they can literally draw on basically anything with these things, but when you think about traditional art like watercolor or acrylic or oils, there's a lot of mess involved with those. So with supervision, I think these could be a good fit for younger artists. They can also be used to decorate bags, backpacks, pencil cases, and more for a personalized touch. So if you like to doodle on canvas, if you like to doodle on your stuff, if you want to doodle on your shoes, these could be really fun. These are also fun on smaller surfaces like mini canvases and possibly wooden signs. Now, I will say I did not test these specific acrylic markers on wooden signs. I have used acrylic markers on wood signs before. Some bleed, some do not. The more liquidy ones bleed. So I would recommend, if you are going to try these out on wood signs, you go to Dollar Tree and pick up some of their inexpensive wood signs, or you go ahead and seal it first and then marker on it and then seal it again, just so that it doesn't bleed. So what about the cons? I am fairly sure these are not dishwasher or food safe. So if you're decorating tableware and mugs, decorate the outside, not where your mouth is going to touch, and hand wash. You will probably need to seal these for longevity. I have a feeling these would scrape off just very easily. The bullet nib on these markers in particular is fairly abrasive. So you can see it's a kind of scratchy, inexpensive bullet nib. The colors separate quickly, especially with some of these greens. So you're constantly shaking the markers. I mean, like literally every time you apply them, if you're working on a project like this, where you're constantly picking up the same colors, some colors stay in solution much better and you're not constantly shaking. Some of them, like some of these red, violets, and purples, fall out of solution very quickly and you're constantly shaking. And it does actually make a difference because it changes how the paints are dispersed in the solvent. So it can make colors more transparent than they ought to be. It can also make some of the colors darker than they're supposed to be. So you want to shake the markers for consistency. They are not as opaque as advertised. These talk about being strong coverage, and it takes a few coats, which, considering they were advertised as being very opaque, and that was something that they wanted me to talk about, they being Arrtx, and that was something that they wanted me to showcase, I do have to point out that it wasn't as strong, it wasn't as opaque as I feel like I'd been led to believe. They are pretty average, I would say, for acrylic markers in terms of coverage. Now, if you're working with markers from a company like Liquitex and you're familiar with acrylic in general, then you would know that acrylic isn't universally all the same opacity. You have some colors that are more transparent. You have some colors that are more opaque, kind of like watercolor, because some pigments are just more transparent and some are just more opaque and more reflective. So I'm not sure if they're adding like a PW6 or some other pigment white to make these a little bit more opaque. It would explain kind of the milkiness we get with a lot of the colors, which isn't a problem. It's just something to keep in mind. But they are not quite as opaque or as thick as I expected. I think if they'd been a little bit thicker, they would have had a little bit better coverage. These are also not refillable, and they don't offer refills from I mean, I'm sure if you're a very stubborn person, you can pull out the nib and use a syringe and refill them. You could probably do that. That is in the realm of possibility, but they are not designed to be refillable. And they don't offer refills through Arrtx. So if you wanted to color match, that would be really challenging. That, like, I maybe could find some refills if I dug on their website, but like on Amazon, on Walmart, like the places where you're probably going to buy these from, I'm not seeing the refills or the open stock markers. That doesn't mean they're not going to offer that. It does mean that as you run out of certain colors, you're not going to be able to replace them necessarily with Arrtx, but you can replace them with other brands. So I also want to talk about some of the things I did not test and do not plan on testing in this video, but I do think you should know about them because these are concerns. I do not know about the light fastness of these acrylic markers. I'm not going to light fast test them. I don't know about the durability of these markers, how much they wear and tear, how much they scratch off. I don't know about the durability of the markers themselves. I did find that when colors pollute one nib, it takes a while to get it out. They did come with additional nibs. Some acrylic marker sets come with a nib for every marker. I do think that's excessive. I did not see replacement nibs for these though, so that's kind of an area that Arrtx could maybe work on. I don't know how easy it is to scratch these markers off of surfaces. Like something like this canvas board, it's probably pretty hard to just scratch it off. But something like this tumbler mug or like this acrylic photo frame. Now this was sanded, but I haven't sealed it. And this I didn't do anything to because I thought it might dull the surface. It's probably pretty easy to scratch these off of non-porous surfaces. It's probably pretty hard to scratch these off of porous surfaces. I do not know the food safety of these. Like, that is definitely something people should consider when it comes to using art supplies on eating supplies. I see people do like beautiful alcohol ink wash mugs and stuff, but I wouldn't put that in my mouth. I don't know if it's actually a problem or not, but I wouldn't. So it's just concerns like that. I don't know the food safety rating for these. I don't think they're designed to be used with eating ware. So if you're decorating plates or something with these, it's going to be a decorative plate. I would not eat off of it. I also do not know if these are dishwasher safe. I know Sharpie makes an oil-based marker that you can run through the oven, and that is dishwasher safe. These are not those. So that is, you know, a thought, but I don't have the answer to that. My final thoughts, and I'm going to divide this into a couple of different categories. I'm going to talk about acrylic markers and on these acrylic markers. So on acrylic markers in general, these are a lot of fun. I've used acrylic markers in the past, but in a limited capacity, so it was really fun to just lean into these. They work better in a heavy-duty sketchbook than I expected, and I enjoyed using them in a sketchbook more than I thought I would. They're almost like a simplified gouache. You can do some really fun, bold, simple art with these, and I'm sure you can do something more complex if you're willing to devote the time and attention to it. Now, the Arrtx markers in particular, these were a lot of fun. I've purchased acrylic markers here and there over the years and have used Posca on and off for years, but having an all-in-one set like this with a bunch of colors really opened up what I could do. I would love to try their brush acrylics because that has a lot of potential to be amazing or to fail terribly. Now, I've talked about this before. I'm just going to reiterate it. I don't super love bullet tips, particularly in alcohol markers. They make a lot more sense in acrylic markers. Posca has done brush tip markers in the past that I felt were kind of a fail. So I'd really love to see how Arrtx's acrylic brush markers handle, because everything I did was kind of chunky, kind of blobby. There's not a lot of nuance. There's not a lot of line weight. It's very simplified. And I think if their acrylic markers with the brush tip handle well, that would address a lot of my pain points with these markers in particular. I've seen other artists using them online, and you know the hype bug bites me hard. So that is definitely something that I would be interested in using. Also, one of my friends in the Paint Box, my Discord server, said that they'd used the brush tip markers and really liked them. So that also makes me feel like that would be something I would be interested in. So if you've used the brush tip markers from Arrtx and you like them and you would recommend them, let me know down in the comments, because I love a lot of like just the being able to doodle in a sketchbook using acrylic markers. I like the opacity. I like the colors for the most part. It's a different way to play, and I'm really enjoying that, and I'm all about that. But the bullet tip, I have Sjogren's syndrome, so I have early onset arthritis. I have arthralgia. I have a lot of hand pain, and these kind of markers with the really stiff tip and the really repetitive motion of filling in an area, that really triggers my hand pain. So I also think the brush tip might be a better option because there's a little bit more flexibility. I can maybe cover a larger area more quickly. So that's another reason I might be interested in them, and that's another reason why these like bullet tip markers as a whole might be a bad fit for some artists, is the hand pain and the repetitive stress. It's the same reason I don't use color pencils. I think the Arrtx acrylic markers would be great for people who do models and dioramas to add in little details or color small areas. I think these are great for decorating and labeling and personalizing your stuff for back to school. In fact, that was one of the areas Arrtx really wanted me to lean into, was back to school. Well, yeah, I am a teacher, but I don't teach in a conventional K through 12 sort of scenario. So there isn't like a traditional back to school for me to prepare for. And I don't have kids. So I wasn't going to go and make a bunch of like back to school projects without like having a person in my life that would benefit from it. So I opted to just kind of do my own thing and see where inspiration took me. But I do think these could be great for back to school, for labeling and personalizing bento boxes and lunch boxes and school bags and pencil cases and binders, and bringing a lot of personality. When I was in that age group, when I was in the back to school age group, we just had Sharpies, and they were available in like 4 colors. And I used to doodle all over my binders. These would be so much more fun. You can decorate like Chromebook cases and iPad cases, and they wanted me to do a phone case, but I own an older phone, so you can't really get replacement cases for it easily. So I would have actually really liked to have done a phone case, and I may go back and do one just for myself and maybe do some irises on it. But because I couldn't go pick one up easily, I opted not to do a phone case. But these could be really fun and really cute on a phone case. It can just be a really easy way to bring some color and some decoration and some fun into back to school. I also think these would be really fun for unusual 3D art projects, like tumblers, like mugs, like the pencil frame, not the pencil frames, like the, mixing my words here, picture frames. Even like I avoided doing like rocks, because painting rocks is like, all of these acrylic marker companies have painted rocks as part of their promo. So y'all know you can paint rocks with these, okay? Like, but you could do flower pots with these. I would recommend doing a base coat of acrylic first, like acrylic paint, and then using these for the details, because again, covering large areas with these is not ideal, but small areas or intricate areas, that's where these really start to shine more. I also think that these are really fun for doing sketchbook doodling, especially if you kind of like the look of gouache, but you don't necessarily want to pull out like a water pot and a bunch of brushes and a bunch of paper towels and have like it take over your whole desk. This is a little bit easier than that. So I had a lot of fun playing around with these acrylic markers. You guys will probably see these pop up from time to time because I do plan on using them. That is why I said yes to the collaboration, as I thought it would be something fun to bring in my studio. But I can also see a lot of other people in my life who would enjoy these. My younger brother, as you guys probably know, maybe not, actually, that video hasn't come out yet now that I think about it, but he is really into models. And I think he would really enjoy these. And I know the modeling community does have their own acrylic markers, like Tamiya makes acrylic markers. But, okay, to be fair, the Tamiya markers are very nice, but they're very expensive. These might be, and I believe they also use like an isopropyl or an alcohol solvent, so they dry a little bit quicker. These are going to dry slower because they are a water solvent, but they're much less expensive. So these could be just so much fun for people who make models. But I agreed to this collaboration because I could see this as something that I would use and that I would enjoy, and that I could think of projects that I thought would be really accessible and easy, but that you guys would really enjoy. So I'm really glad that Arrtx reached out. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope that you guys feel inspired to try something new and try something different in your sketchbook. So once again, I would like to thank Arrtx for sending me these markers to talk about today with you guys. I mentioned them sending me these markers a lot because I wanted to make it crystal clear to you guys that these were provided to me to talk about with you guys. In fact, to be really crystal, the agreement was they would send me some markers. I would create one long form YouTube video and one short form video. I didn't receive any financial compensation. And when so at the risk of alienating the hand that feeds me or fed me, they wanted to dictate. So we had our initial agreement, we agreed, I received my markers, I'd already started working on the video, I thought all was good. And then they wanted to change the terms of agreement. They wanted to dictate what projects that I would do with you guys. They adjusted the timeline, which actually they made it longer, they extended it, so that was fine. But I ended up writing back to them and telling them that I already had some projects in mind that I wanted to do, and that if they wanted me to do specific projects, that they could compensate me for that. And they were good with whatever I came up with after that. So hopefully that was good. But I wanted to kind of talk about that with you guys because
I kind of just wanted to be as transparent and honest with you guys about what went on with this as possible. I've really tried to be good about disclosing things that get sent to me and making it really clear. And I mentioned it several times just in case somebody's like skipping around, so that there's no misunderstanding. And the reason it's important to me is I buy 99% of what I talk about here on the channel. Something like this is honestly the anomaly. It is the rarity. I have been getting a lot of contacts about reviewing things, and it's usually weird things like underwear and candles and pet supplies, things that are not at all relevant to the channel, so I don't even respond to them. And sometimes I get, people reaching out to me asking me to review their art supplies, but it's not really a good fit. It's like color pencils or something I don't really do much or I'm not that interested in, so I don't normally say yes to those. So it's kind of rare when I accept an offer, and it's kind of rare when I actually receive the offer. In fact, Paul Rubens has reached out to me a few times and I've never received anything from that. So I kind of want to point it out, since this is the exception to the normal rule. I didn't want any of my normal viewers to watch this and assume that I bought it when it's the exception to the rule, nor did I want anyone who's new here, because maybe you were looking up how the Arrtx acrylic markers handle, maybe you're looking for some art project ideas. I didn't want anyone new here to think that most of what I do is sent care of. It's really curated and very carefully selected for things that I'm excited about, things that I would like to try, things I think my viewers would be interested in. And for the acrylic markers, I've been seeing a lot of people doing cool stuff with acrylic markers on TikTok. I am sure that was a very strategic marketing plan, so good job on their part. But it already got me in the mood to try some out and to try some projects with them. So like when they contacted me, I was already interested. And then some of the chatters, as I mentioned before in my art-centric Discord server, the Paint Box, had mentioned like we're showing things that they've done with acrylic markers, or talking about it using acrylic markers, or asking about acrylic markers. So it already kind of met my criteria for things that I like to talk about here on the channel. So would I have purchased these? That I think is kind of an interesting question, because it's kind of a yes, no. I did end up, okay, so if I had gone to an art event where these were being used and I got to make some things, I definitely think I would have bought them, because I had a lot of fun with them. They really kind of is inspiring my creativity to do some more like interactive kind of projects. This isn't as interactive as I would like, but it kind of spurred an idea for something like that. I have used acrylic markers in the past, and while I enjoyed them, I didn't have enough of them to really be able to do anything with them. So if I had had the opportunity to play with these markers and get hands-on with these markers, yes, I would buy them. But I have a tendency of talking myself out of buying different kinds of art supplies and only ever buying the kinds of stuff, like a lot of watercolor, right? And a lot of pencils, right? Stuff that I'm already familiar with and I'm already interested in, my hyper focus. So I really appreciated having the opportunity to talk about these with you guys and try them. This is not necessarily the sort of company that is able to do hands-on art events all that often in the US. And I really think that might be an avenue to consider, donating some sets to some libraries, to some schools, and letting students start using them and getting a feel for the materials. But I really enjoyed using them. I hope I was able to inspire you guys with some fun projects. We did more than this, as you guys remember, but these are the ones that I have left and that are three-dimensional and interesting enough to have on the tabletop. We did a mini canvas. We did a metal tumbler, like a Stanley style, it's a Stanley knockoff mug. And we also, and this one might be my favorite because I like the idea the best. It is a clear plastic photo frame from Dollar Tree that you can kind of make interactive almost with your art. You can kind of create a scene, and I really like that, and I really want to play with this idea more. So thank you again to Arrtx for sending me these markers. I really enjoyed them. I hope this was able to answer your questions if you guys are watching. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me again today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and hopefully this will inspire you to try something new so that you can make art a habit. Bye guys!